Well, hello, folks. Thank you for joining us today. I am Troy Galloway. I am the owner of Galloway Building Services, and we're going to do a fabulous show today. I'm really excited to share with you. You can kind of catch us on YouTube, you can catch us on Rumble, Facebook. I mean, we have it posted all over, and this is going to be a show on what we're looking at for commercial inspections. We've done one on roofs. This one's going to be now on commercial buildings, but on the exteriors. Things that you're looking for that you really are not going to, you can't get on a home inspection, or home inspectors are not really qualified to be looking for. So this is what we were going to be going through. We're going to kind of just do a little slideshow here, kind of hit each picture, kind of talk about what's happening in the picture. And, hopefully what this will be, when you get done with it, you'll be seeing what you kind of need to be looking at too, if you can see the building when you're when you're putting down a contract, but also kind of knowing what we're looking for and why commercial inspectors are different than home inspectors. Because face it, actually the buildings are entirely different for components and how they're going. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start with siding. And now siding. Siding is actually, I'm labeling it under siding, but honestly, really what it is this exterior of the buildings, because sometimes our siding is our total wall component. But so we're going to start with this first one right here, and I wanted to share with you, I'm going to drop down up here, and we got this first building is what we call, it's a big warehouse office building here that we just inspected here about a year or so ago. And now I want you to kind of look at it because it's a little different, and we call them pop-ups. And what that basically is they pour the concrete on the ground, and then they raise the building, the sections up, and then join the sections all together. And as you can see in this building, you can see the lines that are actually of the forms, that they put together. And then we'll talk more about that as we go along, different types of systems like that. But I want you to see that this is the pop-up building. This is really popular in commercial buildings. The trouble with pop-up buildings is they're not going to be your high-rise buildings. We just don't normally see it in that kind of a building process. So that's our first one right here. Now let's move on down to the next picture here. And I wanted to share with you now, this is part of that pop-up building, and where they actually pour the concrete right on the ground and lift it up with a crane. But you see, we got these cracks underneath this window here. And with the cracks underneath the window, reason I took this picture for my customer was because this is showing us that we have some signs of some leakage. These cracks, they're not going to be structural because they're not going to go all the way through, but it is causing some trouble. So we know we got some water leakage that needs to be attended to. So these are things that you want to be looking for with all these different types of building systems. But this is showing up that happens even on pop-ups. So a lot of times folks say that don't happen on that kind of a building system. Well, this just goes to show that it absolutely does, and there it is. So let's move on down to the next picture here. And I wanted to share with you what a combination. Now, this is a big Walmart, or Walgreens, I guess it is, Walgreens building. And we have two different types of systems. This is a steel studded. Now, you can't see the steel studs, but this is and I know it because I've been in the building, but this is a steel studded unit building framing. But on the outside of it, then they've put brick at the bottom, as you can see, and then on top you see EIFS, and that's another. So this is a combination. It's very important when you get these combinations of exterior cladding that's going on that they come together properly, that they are watertight. EIFS, as we all know, has had some horrible problems back in the late 90s and the early 2000s. We pretty much got that all worked out now. I think the systems are really coming down well. But when you join it with the brick, then that adds another kind of issues or possible concerns that you better make sure that your inspector, he knows what to be looking for and knows how these should be joined together. Very important. So let's move on down to the next picture, and where I'm going to show you some brick. And you'll see this a lot of times on our big, long brick, expansive buildings here. Now this is a pop-up here. This is a picture where they actually impregnated the form with a stamp, which actually then what this stamp does is it makes this brick look like this. It's pretty cool how they do this. And this is really, this is something that only a professional company's put together. But what I really wanted to share with you here is you see that vertical line in between the brick? Well, what's going on with that right there is that's an expansion joint, because when you get this long sections like this, you're going to get this movement, and in order for this not to create other kinds of issues or problems or water damage, you got to have an expansion joint. Well, that expansion joint, as you can see right here, it needs resealed. Water is getting in behind this expansion joint. So this is something that you want to be looking for and to take care of. This also should be looked under as maintenance also, but in a home building inspection, these are things that we want to be looking for. Now we'll wander on down to the next picture, and oh, look at this one here, folks. Look at the brick on this one. Now, this here, which is a really cool old building. This building is probably 120, 130 years old, an old warehouse down in the city off of the river here. Actually, this is in St. Louis City, and right along the river. And I think the bricks held up pretty good for all these years. But you see what that's looking at? Well, naturally, you can see that. You can see that there is a problem. But what is the problem? Because you don't want it to get any worse. So a good building inspector is going to be able to also help diagnose the problems for you. I know that a building inspector is just supposed to just acknowledge that there's a problem, but it's really nice, isn't it, to have somebody that knows what he's looking at, that can help diagnose the problems so as that you can put a cost analysis behind it. Because you could just fix that brick, but if you don't fix the problem, you didn't fix anything. You just put a Band-Aid on it, and it's just going to get worse. It's going to happen again. And, of course, and you can see up on the right-hand side, you see that little star. That is something that we used to use in a lot of our older bricks, and we'll talk about that. But what that is a brace that helps hold our brick all together. Pretty cool. And actually, on these stars, they get stolen a lot in our inner cities and then they take them down there to the antique shops and sell them. So if you got your stars missing off of there, you can replace it with another piece of sheet metal, or not sheet metal, but a piece of plate steel. But you can put that in there and fix that. But the stars are decorative, and it just also shows the age of the building, because we just don't see that anymore. Let's move on down to the next picture here. And what you're looking at here is you can see that we've actually bricked in the window that we had here at one time. You can still see the old lentil, and you can see that we've done this. Now, it looks to me like what we got is 3 different types of times that we've actually bricked this in. And you see how that they've painted this brick on that, and you see how that moisture has gotten in behind there and is blowing out that paint. So, it's got a little bit of issues there, but these are some of the things that you're looking for. Now, this isn't as scary as the last picture, but it's something that we want to be concerned about, especially on our brick buildings here. Now, the thing with brick is that on our brick buildings is that brick can only go so high. You cannot build a multi-story building. I think 3-4 levels is about all we ever go with brick. And because of this brick, you're going to stack brick so far, and then we start having other kind of issues. Now, we're not going to hit on every bit of every single type of exterior cladding, because we got steel cladding, we got some iron things cladding out there I've seen in New York. So we got all kinds of different systems, but I'm just trying to give a quick, brief view of the different popular, more systems that we see more often than not. So let's move on down here to the next one here. And you can see now, look at this picture here. And you can see how of course, common sense says, wow, that needs mortar. Look at that flat brick there. It's literally fell. because of the mortars being missing out of it. Well, that shows that this has been happening for a long time, and as you can see, it's above a window, so that's kind of a dead giveaway what's happening with that. And we're going to be going to windows here shortly and talk about windows too. But this is a dead giveaway here that you got some issues. Moisture is I know we have to have moisture to make things grow, but buildings don't grow; they just deteriorate. And moisture is a big enemy for our buildings, all our buildings. Now let's move on down to metal buildings. Now this was a warehouse, factory, and office building combination. And this is all steel siding. And so this is real popular. This is actually getting to be more and more popular on our industrial commercial buildings. And check out one of our podcasts on About the House, because we actually talk more about the different steel sidings out there that we have. And they help you, it educates you deeper than what we're going to be getting into here, and about all types of that and advantages and such. But steel siding, it has its advantages because it's cheaper, and also it usually goes over a steel framed, not steel studded, but steel framed building, which is also incorporated with some steel studs. So it's pretty cool building. And when we do an interior one, we'll go over that and we'll talk more about that stuff. But this is what we're looking at on our steel siding. See my window right here? And you see how underneath our siding is going on top of our window, how the caulking is deteriorated, moisture's getting in through there. I'm not so much worried about the moisture coming down through it, is the wind's blowing into it, getting inside the building. And you can see on the left-hand side that it needs to be sealed. Now, you can't see this because I'm doing on this particular picture, but what I really want to share with you too is actually on this one here, it was rotted on the inside. It had so much moisture that now this part of the building was a wood studded framed, and the wood rotted, it was rotted away. That's very important. You want to make sure that's all watertight. And this one here is where we got two layers of roof, or two different stories, I guess I should say. First floor, second floor. In this case, it's just big old huge warehouse, so it's the sheet metal. The siding only has a certain length, a height that it can go up, and then you have to do the next level. But, so you're seeing that. Well, one of the things I want to share with you is I have screws that are already backed out of it. Not good. We don't want any screws backing out of that. Also, I would love to see my grooves of my siding be lined up for aesthetics. I think that's a little bit of sloppy workmanship right there. But sloppy workmanship is okay, well, that's that. But what we really want to make sure is that's watertight. And the screws out. Why? What's going on? That you want to make sure you have a good understanding of what's happening. That's a good sign of something happening. Now we're going to go over to cinder blocks. Cinder blocks is real popular. We still do, believe it or not, quite a bit of cinder block commercial building. Not as much as we used to, but we still see a lot of it. Now, I wanted to show this picture because I wanted to share with you how see that crack coming down there, that vertical crack? It's coming it's coming up from our gutters. Well, that's telling me right now I got moisture problems, or I have had problems, and that's what gutters leaked, and water's coming down and freezing and thawing. But look at that! It literally had the force. That moisture water had the force to crack my concrete cinder blocks in half. Now that's pretty strong to be able to do that. You could just imagine what's happening all the way through the building. Now, structurally, I'm not going to worry about it being a structural problem as at this point. One good thing about cinder blocks is that using it could be used for interior and exterior. So it's kind of like a one-shop application, interior and exterior in a commercial building. Now, you can always add, other things to it to make it, like wood lavs and stuff so you can do your drywall if that's what you want, depending on your application. So let's move on down here to the next cinder block wall. section that we've got a picture of, and you can see, look at this. Look at the deterioration. Look at this, and this has been neglected for a long time. This is kind of why I like to recommend that when you get a commercial building, you should have somebody like myself come and do pre-maintenance. I like to call them proactive maintenance. So this doesn't get away from you, because this is going to cost you more and more money as it gets worse and worse. And you can see how bad this is getting. Now, this one isn't having the blocks already cracked all the way through, but wow, this is what you don't want. Now let's move on down here. I'll show you another one here. Look at this concrete block. Look at this cinder block here. Look at that. I mean, it literally just come right down the seam and cracked that block in two. I mean, that's amazing, the power of that, isn't it? It's just, and it's something so simple. See, they've got in there, and you can see the fresh mortar joints. They've tuck pointed this, but for some reason, when they tuck pointed it, either the problem wasn't corrected, and we still had this here crack in our cinder block right down the center of the block. It just what power that has. All right, so I want to share with this one here. This is a good one here. Somebody took these cinder blocks and they put foam underneath it. Now the foam, I was joking with the buyer that foam is not going to hold that block up. Well, no, that foam's not going to hold that block up. That block actually is being used as a header, to hold that load bearer up. Well, that's not a load-bearing lentil, which we're going to talk about lentils in a little bit because that's very important. But you can see this is why you need to get them commercial buildings inspected. You can see right there, that's falling. What do you think that your insurance company's going to say if that falls on somebody's head? Especially, whether it be your customer or one of your employees, that's not good. And you can see that's dropped quite a bit. And that foam, I don't even know what to say about that. I guess it's helping doing something, Maybe if the foam falls first before the block does, when it hits you in the head, it helps soften it. I don't know. But there you go. You just see some crazy stuff out here. Sometimes you just can't make this up. I'm going to do a video on that. You just can't make this up. Oh my. All right. So here is another one of our sightings that are that we see a lot of. And this is, you got a combination going here with, they actually made some fake stucco on top of our wood siding. Now this is wood. This is fir, plywood. Sometimes they actually used to use a particle board. Masonite made a particle board. They're not the only ones. Masonite's the one everybody hears about because they got sued because of the deterioration. But you can see this is so far gone. There's no fixing this siding. And I did this one for an out-of-country company that was buying this building. And they never got, of course, naturally, when they're looking at the pictures on the internet, when they're putting a bid on the property, they don't see any of this. So you can see how important that is to have somebody come out there and take a look at it and tell you whether this is even salvageable or not. But look at the base of that there wood siding. They got the sod right up against the bottom of that wood siding. Well, what the heck, man? Do you think that's not going to cause water issues and that wood's not going to wick that up? And then if you look on the right-hand side of it, you see where it's got terraced, where that water's coming down from the neighbors right onto this guy's property. So he just ended up just causing himself more trouble. Or the neighbor did, one or the other, but he should have held that building up. You're supposed to be having you want 6 to 8 inches above grade, not in the dirt, because that's what you get when you got in the dirt. So let's move on down to the next one here. And I wanted to share with you what it shows when you got two different building components. Remember we talked about the stucco or the EIFS and the brick? Well, here you got cinder block and the wood siding. Well, think about this. So I have cinder block. Cinder block's a very porous material, and it's kind of like a sponge and absorbs moisture. Well, then when you got that butted up against something like wood, in this one here, this is wood, this is plywood, and it's a fir type material, but you see how it's deteriorated. You got to have an expansion type joint or something in between that doesn't allow for that wicking to occur. These are things that you want to be picked up on in your building inspection. This right here in a nutshell. You want that picked up in your building inspection. Then we're going to move on down here to the next one here. Next picture, and this shows here my siding is just deteriorated. Once again, you can kind of really see where it's coming from, can't you? You can see it's coming from the gutter and coming on down and deteriorated. And it's still salvageable, but you might have to just replace a piece of wood or two. But but my biggest thing is what's behind that. If I could see this on the outside, what am I need to be looking on in the inside? And a good inspector, good building engineer is going to know, which we do in a lot of engineering work. We're going to have to know to look inside to figure out what is going on with that problem. So let's move on down to the next one here, and let's go into doors, because this is some of the things we're looking at when we're doing a building inspection. The exterior is our doors. Now, that's just nothing wrong with that door. It's just a picture of a door. But let's move on down here to the next one here of my door. And you see my door is a big old wooden heavy doors and double acting doors. And you can see that top of the door, how it's not even with the other door. It's like falling. Well, this is showing we got some issues, and that's my primary door, the one that's sagging. Primary door meaning the door that's most used. The other is a secondary door, so you can open them both up to move stuff in and out. But other than that, it looks pretty good. And, sadly on them heavy old doors like that happens, but you'd like to know why it's happening, right? So you could be corrected. Move on down here. Oh, look at there. Look at that. Look at that. That is just totally rotted away. Some more of this fake stucco kind of thing. You got moisture issues, got in there. It's rated out. It's rotted out. My trim. It's inside of there. I got pictures of another video here that we're going to be doing about how it's rotted away, the header, and it's sagging. And actually, it looks better on the outside than it does on the inside, if you can believe that. But you can just see right there now them doors are no longer, it's so bad you can't open them doors up anymore. So the owners just blocked it all off. Of course, they're glass doors, so might as well just secure them and keep everybody out. Now here's in commercial buildings, we have steel frames on our exterior and also a lot of times on our interior walls. But on our exterior walls, on our doors, especially our single or double acting service doors, they're all steel framed. But this is what you're looking for. See how that is? It's rusted away. And so this can be corrected and fixed, but it's getting pretty close to where it can't be. And what I'm also, once again, anytime, so I like to look at the exterior. I like to look at my roof. I like to look at my exterior. So when I go inside a building, I know what I'm looking for. And it kind of takes it a little bit further. And sometimes I got to come back outside to look around again so I can go back and forth to kind of figure out what's happening. But you see, so at the base of it, I got problems. And then on the left hand where the brick is meeting the steel frame, well, remember we talked about the two different types of components, building components, steel versus the brick. Brick is a porous material. It's causing us some little moisture issues here. So this is what you want to look for. Of course, you could also see on that one, what we're going to talk about in a few minutes here, how that brick, or that concrete, my concrete floor here, sidewalk, how it's deteriorated, probably from salts and such, from people salting them down to keep the ice off of it, because this isn't a Midwestern job, so we do get a lot of snow. Now let's move on down to the next one here, and I want to talk a little bit about our door closers. Now I know this is kind of in between interior, exterior, but it's exterior, interior. But look at it. Oh, what I really wanted to share with you, you just don't see an old door closer like this anymore. That was pretty cool. That's an old door closer. And what's really cool about this one is it still was working just fine. But that's what we want to look at. We want to make sure our closers are working. We want to make sure that they're strong enough to shut the door, not slam the door, just shut the door. You don't want to slam it on your people when they walk through it. You don't want your consumers hit in the back or your employees getting hurt, and they can be adjusted. But sometimes the air chucks inside them are just gone and they can't be adjusted anymore. So, you want to be looking at that. And actually, this is on an old laundry mat that we did an inspection on. And I wouldn't doubt this thing is not 80, 90 years old, that door closer. So I hope I look that good when I reach that age. Move on down to my next one here. And here it is. Now, here we have an exterior door that somebody has used a residential material. Well, I highly recommend you don't do that. And I think this picture pretty much explains why that's not a good idea. But see how that skin on our steel doors like that? That's just a steel. That's just a skin, and then you got foam inside of it. Then you got wood that's going around that holds it all. It kind of like encompasses it all. So these are what's happened when you got that. And I love that doorstop. Now that's one doorstop. That concrete block. That looks good. That looks like that's doing a great job. The door won't stay up all by itself, but that concrete block's forever. Oh, I need to tell you a story about my brother-in-law. He gave me one of them door stops like this for a boat anchor because I kept losing my boat anchors. Oh, that's how you give me that concrete block. I never lost another boat anchor. Anyway, that was funny. We still laugh about that over the holidays. So when we're talking about doors, we also got to talk about garage doors, and our service doors, our warehouse doors. And we do check all of them too, and you want to make sure they're functional and that they're operating fine, because that's very, we're going to get our equipment in and out of there. That's very important. So we'll move on down to the next picture here. Now look here, it looks like, I see that big dent in the door here. Well, that dent right there showing right there that somebody has run into that a few more times than they should, like once is too many. But in this case, the door was still working. That's important. The little dent in the door, well, in this case, it's at the back of the building off a loading dock. It's going to happen again. But, but these are what you want to look for. Make sure, so when you get your building inspection, you want to know, hey, do I got any damaged garage doors? So now we'll move on down to windows. I'm going to do a real little bit on windows. This is on an old building down in the inner city again. And we got all kinds of different window systems. Once again, we talk about windows. Check us out, our podcast called About the House. You could get that on YouTube or Facebook, Rumble, it's all over. And we talk more into detail about that kind of stuff. But what I want to share here, again, just what we're looking for in a commercial inspection. So let's move on down to the next picture, and which is a picture of that. And you see my glass block window. Great, it's very nice. I love them glass block. We use glass block a lot because we want the light, the illumination to come in, but we also want to make sure people's not going to break in. And you're not going to really break a glass block window very easily to crawl through. And if you do, you're only going to break one at a time. But what I wanted to share with you is that a couple of things happening here. Number one, I wanted to show you the grout lines between the glass blocks themselves, and see how the mortar's coming out of them. They mortar them just like they do brick, our block. And but you can see it's deteriorated, it's coming out. That's showing me that we got some issues that need to be attended to. Now you look at the glass block where it meets the brick on the, further in through the picture, and you see where my caulking is coming out, So these are things that you want to know. Hey, how much am I going to have to pay to get this exterior cleaned up and taken care of so I don't have problems? That's what you're looking at. And in this case, that's pretty easy fix and pretty relatively cheap. Now let's move on down to the next one right here for on windows. And I wanted to share, there's a few things happening with this. Now you look where we call it glazing, my glass meets the steel frame. See that? And you see on that one corner right here, and you see how it's missing the weather stripping. Well, common sense says moisture's getting in there. And in this case, this moisture in this one here was wicking all the way into the building, and I could pick up the mold that was inside that's happening around that on the drywall. So, and this is where it's coming from. And then you see on your steel framing here, the window itself, you see that it needs caulked up. But then you go to the far right-hand side of this picture, and you see where the framing of the window meets the seal, and you see where that needs sealed up or caulked up. And that's very important. This is not really bad yet, but it's getting there. And this is not a real old building, but I would say this building is probably about 20 years old, so it definitely needs some attention. But what happened with this window here, why you see that weather stripping look like this on this one, is because when they put the new piece of glass in, apparently the glazier did not put the right size weather stripping in. And that's a problem. So let's move on down to the next one here. And that's a better picture of that right there. And you see where the weather stripping meets you see where the weather stripping meets on a steel frame, the glass and the frame meets, and right there in the corner of that, you see that's an opening where the water's getting into it. Then you see on my framing where the metal framing is, you'll see where that is all got opened up, and you can see water into that. We can get into that, and then of course my seal right there. We even got debris out there. Look at that. You can actually see right into this picture where they got leaves and stuff. Well, that's definitely not good. But that's what you're looking for. Now let's kind of keep on down here. Take a look at this one here. Here's one that's been of a steel frame, and we talked about this and the moisture issues. Well, this is where it's starting to show some damage. And it's starting to, even out of iodized material starts deteriorating, and that's what's happened here. Starting to get some deterioration, and that's what you want to look for. And it's pretty common on a lot of these older buildings. So we're going to move on down into the next picture here, because we talked about the lentils. A lintel, see that there? Actually, that's a piece of steel that goes inset into the brick. See on this one here, you can see that rusting right there on our lintel, and that goes across and it holds up my masonry. And then they use that until everything sets up. Well, what happens is if you do not keep them lentils primed or painted, sealed, whatever word you want to use, then they get rusty. When that starts rusting, that metal expands. When that metal expands from that rust, then it blows out the mortar. It blows out the mortar, then now I got water issues, and then it rusts even more. I cannot tell you how many times I've actually told people, your lentils are shot in this old building. You're going to have to replace the lentils. That's a big cost. Big cost. That's something you don't want to have to find one, and you don't want to be surprised. Now let's move down to our electric. And this is a nice winter day. Now, this electric don't look so bad, I don't like seeing the rust coming down, but this one doesn't look really, really bad. You can see some of my wires are starting to fray. And we'll go to the next picture here where we can show a little bit better with that. And now this is important. This is a very costly fix. And you can see where the sheathing going around my service coming in is deteriorated. Now this one's not to the point of being totally gone yet, but there are some municipalities that they would not allow this to be. They'd make you pay to get that replaced. That is an expensive fix, because that's some high power going into there. This is not a do-it-yourselfer project. So this is important to at least you want to see this on your report. What's the condition of this? Very, very important. Now let's move on down to the next picture. Lighting. We're looking at all our electrical outside. Well, best. Now lighting. Now with our lighting, we're kind of limited here. Now, like on this one, this sign right here, we can turn this on. We can see it the best we can. But the main thing is say if it's got a light bulb out, I might not necessarily pick it up during the daytime as easily as I could in the evening. But light bulbs is not your problem. You want to make sure it lights up. Light bulbs, they go out. You don't want to have one that's missing power. And this one here, it literally had no power going to it. Something happened between point A to point B, and they no longer had any power going out to it. So let's go down to the next one here. And this is my outside lights. Now, a lot of my outside lights are dusk to dawn lights. You're not going to be able to actually get good pictures of dusk to dawn lights during the daytime, because naturally they're not going to be turned on. So if there is a question or a doubt or a suspicion, I highly recommend that you ask the sellers to take pictures of all the dusk to dawn lights at nighttime, so you know that they're working. And we can actually go out there too if that's what you want. Now, we're going to move over here, and we're going to kind of get down to the end of this here. But parking lots and loading docks. Now, we touched base a little bit on garage doors, so we're not going to do that. But you see where this one here had the old garage door blocked up. This is an old warehouse, again, down in the city right off the river. And I wouldn't doubt this building's 100 some years old, maybe 150 years old. Really cool building. And but you can see that you got some issues happening. That's what you want to be looking for. See what condition it is. Move on down to the next one of parking lots. Now you see this one's a good one right here. And the parking lot, okay. And this one here, you got some crackage on our blacktop asphalt. And you might want to think about one day it's going to probably need restriped. All of this adds up. But these are things that you're looking for. And actually, this one doesn't look so bad that it has to be attended to immediately, but it will be. Now come up on this next picture of this asphalt. And of course the car, I don't know what that car driver's thinking of. He just totally missed that yellow line. I don't know what to say about that. That's so irritating, isn't it? Somebody hogging up the spots. But anyway, regardless of that, that's not what we're here for. But I want to share with that crackage. Look at that. Now, this one's pretty bad. This one's starting to show some real wear and tear. And this one is, when you get this crackage like this is going to start blowing out. And you see these sections that are cracked up? These will pop on you. And then you're going to have it re-asphalted. So you'd have to ask your asphalt company if he comes out to reseal that. Do you think that, would he warranty it? Or how long would he warranty it for? Or do you think you need to replace that section? That's important. Let's move on down to the next one. And you see how bad they can get. See how that one is? And they literally have just patched it up here a little bit, patched it up a little bit there. And that's what happens when you don't keep them resealed. And they just totally blow out. Just what a mess. And we also are looking at, like this one here, this up out by the loading dock, and I got our trash bins. All this stuff is important. Making sure that it's secure. In this particular application, it is an old Walgreens. It's a Walgreens, and it's down in the inner city area again. And it's in a place that, honestly, you want to make sure it's safe and secure because, sadly, we got homeless that live in here. And in this particular building, we did have homeless living back up inside of these shelters. Heaven forbid, I feel so sad for them folks, but, we don't need them on our property where we could be sued. Well, when we move on to drainage, we talked about that a lot, about the crackage and stuff. And so this is a good example. Good old copper gutters, last forever. See how they're cracking up right here, and they just keep them resealed. You can even see where the water's run down behind them. They're really important to keep them sealed. We'll move on down here, and you can see right here now see how that downspout is dropping right onto the ground. It's not going onto any concrete, and it's hit that asphalt, and that asphalt has gotten a freeze and a thaw. Now it's all gone. It's broken up. So you want some drain tile or you want some splash blocks, but get that water away from your building. Even if, no matter what, get that water away from your building so you don't have other concerns getting inside of your basement or underneath that, freezing and thawing up underneath their foundation walls. So, that's a big issue. Now, we also want to look at protrusions, all protrusions that are coming through the building. And so this isn't drainage issues at all, but they definitely are things that we want to look at and, you just see what kind of condition that it's in. Because everything that comes on the outside is going to be coming inside. I see somebody's out there smoking a cigarette. But that don't make us no difference anymore. And see, look at this protrusion where the stovepipe's coming through. And see all the water and stains. And look at that. Now that's a mess, my friends. That's a mess. And that's a big problem. And they got some serious work. And what they got is they got three different types of materials that are not working together. You got your cinder blocks, you got your metal stovepipe, and then you got whatever this is that they used in between as a buffer. Well, apparently that stovepipe, as it swells up, it didn't have any room for expansion, and so it blew it out. And now you see moisture's coming down it. That's a problem. You want to make sure that's all taken care of. Well, folks, that takes care of it. Kind of takes you down a little bit of a trip of what we should be looking for when we're doing a commercial building inspection. Some of the things that it's important that you need to be knowing about when you get your report, what it is on the exterior that you're looking for, what's big, what's not. And we're going to get into a lot more detail on a few other videos, but this will kind of help guide you into what we're trying to do. And look forward to our next one on interiors. There's a lot going to be a very good one on that one too. But if you ever have any questions, give me a call. You know, I have people call me all the time just asking, hey, Troy, what about this? What about that? I don't charge anything for asking questions. And if you're a past customer of ours, I am. You're a building consultant. You have a building engineer that's a building inspector that was in your corner that's here to help you anytime, whether it's your construction problems that you may have or you want to make sure it's the right products being used for that application. I'm your guy. And hey, you're not going to get me any cheaper than you're going to get me on your building inspection. So, folks, thank you for watching. Appreciate it very, very much. Again, I'm Troy Galloway, owner of Galloway Building Services. Give us a call. You can find us out on our webpage at www.Galloway Building Services. As a matter of fact, you find us on YouTube under Building Science, under our radio podcast about the house. Tons of information. We've got hundreds of videos out there, maybe getting close to 1,000 by now of different podcast and radio shows and our YouTube videos. So check us out, learn, and call. You got my phone number. It's all associated with this. And if you like this video, which I know you will, hit like and subscribe. That really helps us. Give us a call. Galloway Building Services. Thank you. Have a great day.